Hello there, only one Kenobi here, only one. And I thought I would start the video in here because I've just come to find a few card backs to help me explain the next video. And they are these. And I want to talk to you about the Biker Scout coming out in TVC. Again, I want to talk about the name of it and if you think it's a good idea or bad that they are changing it. And I'm going to discuss a few other examples where the vintage collection has swung in and corrected any faults from the past, or at least added information about specific characters from Star Wars. Join me, won't you? Right, so let's get into this because of the fact that the Biker Scout is coming out in TVC. I tell you what, man, I personally had a real palaver getting hold of one. Everywhere it's sold out. I don't know what the status is on the Biker Scout or if they're going to bring out more. They should. The availability here in the UK anyway was awful. That's something to do with the allocation of the UK marketplace. Very strange. Don't know. But anyway, so the fact that the Biker Scout is coming out is a welcome idea because, you know, I dare say he needs to be in the TVC, although one could argue, you know, he's already kind of in the modern line. This is the VOT, hang on, no it's not, it's the Vintage Saga collection. So you can get a modern equivalent of the Biker Scout that isn't from the 1980s. Look at this one, man, he really is starting to yellow now. Oh dear. Yeah, it's quite common that, you know, for some of these figures, but, you know, I've not even had him in daylight, but that will be some kind of chemical reaction, although I did buy him second hand, so you don't know what the previous owner did with him. But see, on the card there you've got the name Biker Scout. Now a lot of people are really kicking off about that. They want the new TVC one to be called Biker Scout, whereas me, for once, I actually think that Hasbro are doing the right thing. Now you can switch off now and hold me over the coals for that statement, but let me explain a bit more about what I mean. The thing is that you are going to get this in the retro collection named Biker Scout because one can't ignore the fact that he was called that in the 1980s. Now, I don't even remember what I called this guy in the 80s. I did have him. I was probably about 5 years old when I got the figure. And I did have Speeder Bike as well, which I found really problematic as a kid because it was just so spindly and it fell apart. It wasn't really my favourite vehicle, but I did love the figure. And I didn't really ever learn what they were called. Many years later, I think it was like a little visual dictionary or a book or something, that they were called a scout trooper, because obviously they're not called that in the film. No one refers to them by their name in the film. Hell, in A New Hope, no one says the word Tatooine. You have to find out what the name of that planet is elsewhere. So the fact they're called Biker Scouts wasn't really ever part of my knowledge. I don't know what I called them, as I say, as a kid. And the fact that they were called Biker Scouts went amiss to me because probably older kids who are still older than me now, in their 50s and whatever, who used to get more vintage figures or whatever than I, or were older when they played with them, would have always called them Biker Scouts based on the packaging. Me, as a baby, I would have ripped over the packaging and just played with the toy. But they are known as Biker Scouts, obviously, but I always knew them as Scout Troopers. That's what they are. You have Stormtroopers, Snow Troopers, and Scout Troopers. But then again, there's the argument with the Snow Trooper. Who called him a Snow Trooper? Are they? If you look at the original packaging for Kenner, it was the Stormtrooper Hoth, not the Snow Trooper. So it's probably a nickname that was given, just like this guy has almost acquired the nickname Biker Scout because he's a Scout Trooper on a bike, and someone at Kenner probably just called it the Biker Scout, you know what I mean? Biker Scout Trooper. But I always knew them as the Scout Trooper, and apparently they are calling him the Scout Trooper on the packaging, which is a really good idea. So let's have a little debate on that now and have a look at some other areas where TVC have updated characters, and they've done a lot of it. They've done it with Barada, they've done it with this guy here, Orimarco, Pruneface. But what I really liked about the vintage collection was that they always put the original name in brackets, which brings me to this guy. This card back always annoyed me. This was brought out in 2019. The fact that they didn't put in brackets what he was called, and also I don't like the fact the pill went across like that. I think they could have done it a bit more central. I know he's quite tall and everything, but so's Chewbacca. So Sael Marai, I remember I also messaged, did I talk to about that? I can't remember. I think, am I dreaming this? Did I message, what's he called, Steve? I think the argument by Steve, whatever he's called, what's he called? Steve? Mr. Stevie or whatever from Hasbro had made the argument that, you know, he's getting called Yak Face on the card back that came with the barge, which, you know, I still disagree. I think he should have been given Yak Face in brackets just to keep the continuity of the vintage collection, just like Pruneface did and others. But the fact that they're renaming him Biker Scout is good. It's a bit like the Woof scenario. Woof, incorrectly named Klaatu in the 80s, was corrected in the vintage collection. So that's what the vintage collection stands for, rectifying maybe any faults or misnames that happened in the past. Now, you might be screaming at the screen now saying he's called the Biker Scout and always will be. And that's because you grew up with that. And that's fair enough. I don't remember him ever being called that until I was an adult. You know, it's mad, isn't it? Isn't that weird? Even though I had him and stuff like that. But to me, he's a scout trooper. And if that's what they're called, that's good. But he's a biker scout trooper because he's on a bike, and that reflects on the card there. I think they were sold separately in the 80s. Because I certainly didn't. I think I had the figure, but I remember this vehicle coming on its own. Because obviously Luke and Leia ride it as well. So but there you are. That's the situation. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. You know, are you annoyed that they're not calling it Biker Scout in TVC? Because in Retro Collection you are going to get this Biker Scout, but in TVC it's going to be called Scout Trooper. But that might also annoy people, the fact that they don't match. So you might want to have 3 in a row. You might want this. You might want the retro and the TVC. Plus, you might even have the 80s release. And you want them all to read the same on the pill, Biker Scout. But if you think about it, what will be nice is you'll get that image through the years. Always looks quite nice on a wall when you've got multiple of the same image. Despite my argument of wanting variant card backs. So contradicting myself there, but you know what I'm saying. But it, you know, when you step back, you won't even notice the name pill, you know, it'll just all be together, all your variants or whatever. But I think it's kind of cool that they're giving it a different name, although that might really irk a lot of people. So it's not going to irk me though, because I think it's just part of what TVC stands for. Don't forget that this is the modern equivalent of the original Kenner line, and changes always happen, you know, be it changes on the figure, they update aspects of the figure, but also maybe even the names, just like they did here, giving him the correct name, correcting the past. And there you are. That's really all I wanted to say about that, ladies and gentlemen. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've got hold of one of these, because these were apparently an absolute nightmare to get hold of. I had trouble, unbelievable trouble getting one. I was actually worried that I wouldn't get one, but still, I have at least one booked, because I only want to open it. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I have been only one Kenobi. Only one. Out.